UFC Vegas 41. We got two men that are coming off the toughest losses of their careers, both by the hands of the same man, the style bender. In Costa's case, he gets finished early. He gets humped from behind. In Vettori's case, he gets styled on for 25 minutes, falls short at a chance to hold gold. How will these men rebound? And a great opportunity to shine in a main event spot here. One man will fall short again. Stay tuned to see how the teller thinks this fight plays out, plus much more. Let's go.
The teller, the teller, the teller.
It's another day. Left jab, right jab. This is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim? Looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting. If you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go. I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller, the teller, the teller, the teller.
What is up, you guys? Here we go. UFC Vegas 41. Paulo Costa taking on Marvin Vettori. As we talked about briefly before, two guys that are coming off very, very tough losses and getting a giant opportunity once again. So, one of these fighters is definitely going to be leaving feeling absolutely horrible, losing two in a row there, and kind of wondering what's next for them. So this is a big, big fight for both men. Other than that, you got guys like Grant Dawson getting a giant co-main event spot for him. A guy that's very, very promising. You guys know I've been very high on him from the get-go, taking on the tough veteran in Ricky Glenn. Other than that, we got Bruce Leroy fighting the very talented fighter in Sang-Woo Choi, who's really been putting it together as of recently. I believe he's coming off a three-fight winning streak. We'll be getting into that and plus much more, man. We got a giant card here. Mason Jones gets a new opponent, and David Onama, an 8-0 fighter who really has some finishing power. And what else? Kama Worthy taking on Jai Herbert. We got some things to talk about in regards to that fight. Kama Worthy unfollowed me on Instagram, and he had some choice words for me as well. We'll get into all that here in a second. You guys know I had an interview with him a while back. But like I said, we'll get to all that. We got a lot to talk about. We got to hit a little bit of a recap, right? You guys know the routine. We got to recap UFC Vegas 40. Was not a profitable night for me. We hit one of our three overall plays. Let's get into the overall card, and let's see what I targeted and where I went wrong. So we had Fight Night, Ladd versus Dumont. First and foremost, you guys know I always try to be as transparent as possible with you guys. I want to let you know this was one of the first fight cards that I was not able to watch live in a very, very long time. I do not miss fight cards at all, especially when it comes to the UFC. Try to catch them all, man. Every Bellator card, every single top-notch MMA fight card, no matter the promotion, I try to catch it. Unfortunately, I had some family things to attend to, so I was not able to catch these fights live. I had to rewatch them on MMA Core and another website as well, so I had to try to piece together exactly how the night played out. There was a couple fights that I was able to throw on the phone and was able to watch, and wasn't too happy about them, which we'll be getting to here in a second. But from what I was able to see and what I gathered, and we're going to go through the night here, Ariane Cornellosi takes out Estela Nunez. This was my first play of the card. I felt very confident about this play. I was actually loving the line movement as well. A lot of action came in on Nunez, so I even had a little bit more action on Cornellosi as the fight came about. An official 4-unit play there on Ariane Cornellosi. Started the card off in a great way, but as we talked about, man, it's going to start to go downhill from here. Donna Badagarel takes out Brandon Davis. You guys know I was on him to win that fight too. No official action. Badagarel's striking is really, really coming together. Luana Carolina takes out Lupita Godinez. Saw some highlights from the fight. I heard the fight was pretty close overall. A lot of people kind of disagreed with the decision, I heard. And that wasn't the only fight, because in the next fight, Danny Roberts takes out Ramazan Emeev. And a lot of people were upset about this. And from what I was able to see, it looked like Ramazan probably should have got the nod as well. Close fight. What were your guys' thoughts on this fight? Do you think Danny Roberts deserved to win it? Let me know. Bruno Silva takes out Andrew Sanchez. Sanchez has some moments early in the fight, does some damage, but at the end of the day, Bruno Silva ends up getting the finish in the third round. A very entertaining fight there. Now, this is going to bring us to my second play of the night, which I'm really upset that I touched this play. I should have known better, but you know what, man? I'm not perfect out here. I make mistakes, and I gave this guy Ludovic Klein a second chance. You know, he's came through for me way back in the day. As of recently, failed to defeat Trezano, lost some money for me there. I chose to give him another opportunity here. It was more of a fade on Nate Landwehr, and I ended up throwing Klein in a parlay with Menin Farot. Of course, Farot came through. Klein did not. This guy Klein has a horrible gas tank. This was the fight I saw complete live on my phone. This guy is just, he needs to sharpen up his entire game plan. He needs to work on his cardio. I saw him as soon as the middle of the second round was going on. This guy was completely broke down. He was even landing some shots, but he just had no pop on his punches, and you could tell that he was on his way to crashing in this fight. Nate Landwehr, I got to give him some credit too, man. The guy looked tough in there and pulled off a nice little anaconda choke. How about Jim Miller, man? I saw this, man. Jim Miller gets the knockout finish over Eric Gonzalez, man. I'm very, very happy for Jim Miller. He's calling out Cowboy Cerrone. The winner of that fight would be the all-time UFC wins leader currently, if that fight happens. I would love to see that fight happen. They already fought, and that's a fight that I think should be made. All right, now this takes us to my third and final play of the card. Took a stab here on Carlos Felipe. I thought that, you know, Father Time was eventually going to catch up with Andrei Arlovsky, but occasionally, obviously not. That's not the case. Arlovsky is just continuously going in there and taking these types of guys out. Felipe almost got him out of there in the third round, but it wasn't enough. Some people were upset with the overall judging there, but Arlovsky won rounds 1 and 2, so I mean, it was his fight. It was what it was. Felipe should have brought that action early, and he did not. So he falls short. Small little stab there, and again, no real major damage done here. We're gonna bounce back this upcoming weekend. I'm not too worried about it. You guys know I've been killing it as of recently. Occasionally, you're gonna have cards like this. It is what it is. All right. Now the main event: Norma Dumont takes out Aspen Ladd. Dumont starts off strong. One judge gives the last two rounds to Aspen Ladd. The other judges just gave Ladd that 5th round, so Ladd kind of controlling Dumont against the cage, but a little too late there. And that wraps up UFC Vegas 40. Not one of the better cards that we've had, but the cards that we have on the horizon are absolutely excellent. So I cannot wait to get into all that. And with no further ado, we're going to slide over to UFC Vegas 41. All right, so we kick things off with Lavinia Souza, the Brazilian gangster, taking on Randa Marcos, the longtime UFC gatekeeper, a very, very tough customer. You know, Randa Marcos is a girl. I always say this, man. Her record is really not indicative of who she is as a fighter. She's literally spent almost her entire career in the octagon. She has experience on The Ultimate Fighter. She always goes out there and she's willing to throw down. She's a well-rounded fighter. She could submit you. She can clinch you, push you up against the cage. She's strong there. She has some pop in her hands. Unfortunately for her, things just don't always go her way, but she's always fighting top-level competition. You know, as of recently, she lost to Mackenzie Dern, Amanda Ribas, two very talented fighters. And if you go back to them, we'll run through her resume real quick. I mean, she's been in there with some top-notch fighters. Lost to Claudia Gadelha, Alexa Grasso, Karolina Kovacevic back in the day, Rose Namajunas. I mean, she's been in there with some good fighters. Yes, she's definitely lost to some fighters that are not really on the level. But I mean, overall, I mean, she's a tough fighter. She had a tough outing with Marina Rodriguez, who's obviously doing her thing right now. The Claudia Gadelha fight, a lot of people thought that she won that fight. A lot of people thought that she got the bad end of the stick there. She's taken out girls like Angela Hill. I mean, she has some things to talk about, man. So just when you look at her record and you see the 10 and 11, if you don't know what she's about, that's not what she's about. Taking on Lavinia Souza. You know, Souza is a girl that I do believe has some type of grappling skills. I mean, she has some jiu-jitsu. She has some submissions early in her career. But overall, this is a girl that when she goes in there, it seems like she's just willing to trade on the feet. She's looking to go in there and really kind of street fight you almost, man. She's in there ready to throw bows with you, try to put you out. She's an extremely tough customer. I like watching her fight. I don't necessarily think that she's a top tier fighter or anything like that, but she's a girl that goes in there and she delivers. She does deliver. She goes in there to brawl with you and throw hands, and she's quite good at that. As of recently, she did lose to Amanda Lemos. Amanda Lemos is a girl that I am very high on. So that loss right there, you don't want to put her under the fire too much, but a loss that you do want to kind of question is the Brianna Van Buren fight. Brianna Van Buren was an undefeated fighter that came into the UFC that had a lot of praise, but as of recently, hasn't been looking that good. And she was able to look good against Souza. She was able to control Souza there with some wrestling. She held her own in the feet as well. So not a good look for Souza there. But other than that, took out Ashley Yoder and Sarah Frota and Alex Chambers. So a little bit of a soft record there. I think the level of competition is higher as far as Marcos goes. And you know, that's the fight game there, man. You could be a fighter that's 10-11 or a fighter that's 14-3, but look at the difference of the fighters that you've been fighting. Marcos coming into this fight at 36 years old. Well, you got Souza at 30. So Souza definitely more in the prime of her career. As far as the reach goes and the size, pretty much identical. We're going to give a very, very slight lean to Marcos there with a 1-inch height advantage and a 1/2-inch reach advantage. Don't really care too much about that. You know, the way I look at this fight, man, is how are the boxing exchanges going to go? When these fighters are exchanging in the middle, who's going to be getting the better of those exchanges? Who's going to be landing? Who's going to have the better accuracy with their shots? As far as the clinch game goes, I could see Marcos being a little bit stronger there, but Souza's capable there as well. So it's not really a given that Marcos will be able to control the fight there. On the mat, like I said, man, Souza has some tricks up her sleeve there as well. I think the line is pretty accurate here. I think this is a very, very close fight. Been back and forth on this myself here. You know, it's tough, man. Like I said, Marcos losing 4 fights in a row. She did have a weird little last fight right there with Luina Pinheiro. Had that DQ, but the Kanako Murata fight too. I know it's been a tough road for her recently. You know, I want to pick her to win this fight. I think that this is a close one, though. I'm going to take Marcos. I'm going to take Marcos to win the fight. I've been back and forth on it. I think that Marcos still has a little bit left in the tank. She's going to be extremely motivated here. Going to say that the boxing exchanges are going to be very even, but I'm going to say Marcos is going to have a little bit of an edge in the other elements of the fight. Maybe a little bit of wrestling mixed in there. Maybe a takedown or two can help seal a round, and I'll take Marcos to win the fight. Now, take a look at the live line. Marcos right now is a slight dog, right around that plus 105 range. It's almost a pick 'em here. A little bit of action coming in on Marcos. Maybe we see the line even out a little bit over the week. Maybe. Take Marcos to win that fight, though. Jeff Molina taking on Daniel Lacerda, the UFC newcomer. I've been breaking down tape on this newcomer to the UFC, this flyweight Brazilian fighter. Was impressed with what I saw. Was decently impressed with this guy. He's 11-1. He's a solid striker. He's only 25 years old. If you go on YouTube, you can pull up a nice little highlight reel of him. You could see kind of what he's about. This is a guy that definitely shows to be a well-rounded fighter. He's very, very light on his feet, throwing a lot of lead kicks. His hands are accurate. I saw him tag some guys pretty nicely. Also showed to be decently well-rounded on the mat. Saw him attacking off his back, subbing guys off his back. Now, the level of competition in those fights wasn't necessarily the best, but this is a guy that's going in there against the guys that he's matched up with, and he's handling business. He's only lost 1 professional fight, and that was a fight where he had an injury, too, to his shoulder, so a little bit of an unorthodox type of loss. It wasn't like he went in there and got beaten down or anything like that. Jeff Molina, 9-2. I like this kid. You guys know that I like Jeff Molina. Coming off Dana White's Contender Series, got the victory there against a very tough customer, and this guy Silva here, a guy we've seen around the way a little bit here and there. And Molina looked very good in this fight. He was able to really do what he wanted to do in that fight. I liked it. He showed a lot of well-roundedness. He was holding his own on the feet. Looked dominant with some grappling in that fight too, with some jiu-jitsu. He's a well-rounded fighter. He got his chance to fight in the octagon against Kulang Ayori and handled business there. Looked good. Was in control of that fight. Molina, you guys know Molina is a Glory and MMA fitness product. I know James Krause has put in a lot of work with this kid, and you guys know I'm very high on James Krause as a coach, and I think it shows in Molina's game how well-rounded he is, the fighter IQ when he's in there. He's a good, solid fighter, man. He's gonna be going in this fight with an identical height to his opponent in Daniel. We don't have a reach on Daniel. I don't expect too much to be going on there. I wouldn't pay that too much mind. It's a good fight, man. You know, like I said, man, this guy Daniel does show to have skills on the feet. He definitely has some skills. This is a kid. Now, he's what, 25 years old? We may see major growth from this kid. This might be a young buck that we see thrive in the octagon over the years. This is a tough fight, though, to enter the octagon with. You got a guy, Molina, now that already has some octagon experience under him, starting to really feel himself, and he has a lot of talent himself. Molina, you know, I don't want to necessarily say that he is the better striker or he is the better ground fighter. It's kind of hard to say, man, because like I said, when you're looking into Daniel's fights, he's fighting lower level opponents, but he's looking really good in there. We're going to see what's going on this Saturday when Daniel has a step up in competition. Can he look as good in this fight as he's looked in some of his other fights? This is one of those things that we're really going to have to see to really know, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, I do know that Molina is a UFC caliber fighter. I know that he's a solid fighter. I do believe that. Iori is a tough customer. Jacob Silva, again, we talked about Jacob. Jacob's a tough customer, but I just like the way that Molina is calm, cool, and collected when he's in there, and just seems to deliver and throw the W under his resume there. He has a couple things going for him here. I'm going to take Jeff Molina to win this fight. I think that you know, Daniel has a little bit more of a flashy type of striking style. I know that Molina will stick to the fundamentals here. Krause will have him very grounded, and I like the fundamentals maybe to take out a guy in Daniel that's a little bit more flashy. And Molina is a cerebral fighter. He'll avoid the wild attacks from Daniel. I think overall he takes the fight. I'll take Molina to win that fight here. Right now we take a look at the live line, and he's right around that -170 to -175 range. As high as -188 on FanDuel. So depending where you're looking, some action coming in on him there. I'll take Molina to win the fight. Kama Worthy taking on Jai Herbert. Talked a little bit about this in the introduction. Kama Worthy hit the fortune teller with an unfollow and had a couple little slick words to say. Kind of had to tease him a little bit on the way out there. But, you know, it is what it is, man. The guy didn't like the fact that I was making fun of Woodley. I'm sure there's a couple of you guys that unfollowed me on Instagram maybe because I said a couple T-Wood jokes. You know, if you guys are diehard T-Wood fans, I get it. I'm probably not going to be your guy. But hopefully you could be a little bit lighthearted about it and understand it's all in good fun. But going into that Paul fight, you know, I had to go in on Woodley a little bit there. And Kama didn't like it. Kama didn't like it at all. You know, and again, he didn't say nothing crazy. He's just, you know, he obviously didn't like it enough that he unfollowed me. But Kama Worthy is a guy we had the pleasure to chat with. You guys can check out that entire interview here on the channel. You know, and that's when Kama Worthy was really riding high at the time. You know, things aren't necessarily going the same way that they were back then. You know, since I had that interview with him, which was coming off the violent Bob Ross victory, he's lost both fights. Lost to Ottman Azatar, and he lost to Jamie Malarkey, and he got finished in both of those fights. You know, so he went from being a guy that was starching guys to being starched himself twice in a row. And now he takes on Herbert, a guy that really is a sniper. That's Herbert's fighting style. This guy's a sniper. You know, he's a very accurate boxer, and he's coming off 2 tough losses himself. You know, his UFC debut, you know, coming in fighting a guy in Francisco Trinaldo, a guy that's been around the block for such a long period of time. That's a tough fight, man. Francisco Trinaldo, who's fighting here, you know, very soon as well. Trinaldo is a guy, a very underrated fighter in my opinion, a very well-rounded fighter. That's a very, very tough fight for a young guy coming in, you know, coming into the UFC. And Herbert had some moments in that fight. He did have some moments in that fight. If you guys remember, you know, he hurt Trinaldo, as you see here. It was a back and forth type of war. At the end of the day, though, Herbert did seem to fade a little bit, and Trinaldo took over that fight, and he was victorious. Was Trinaldo. Now, And his next fight, he gets matched up with the guy in Hanato Moicano, who is a very, very talented fighter, an extremely well-rounded fighter, a dangerous striker, a dangerous jiu-jitsu player. And that's a tough fight for him there. And Herbert had some moments in that fight too. Herbert had some moments where he landed some shots. But at the end of the day, his ground game was not up to par. But you know what? I don't think he has to worry too much about the ground game here against Khama Worthy. I think Khama Worthy is going to be looking to keep this fight on the feet. So will Herbert. I think the UFC brass and Dana White, they did a solid matchup here and matching these guys up. I think Herbert deserves a fight like this. He's had a tough road, former Cage Warriors champion, and I like this fight for him. You see that the people agree with me for the most part too. He's coming in right now right around a -175 with some action even moving in on him as we speak, -185. So people like him here, and I get it, because the thing is, this fight, like I said, should take place on the feet. Herbert is a very poised and experienced boxer. He's very calm with the striking. He's very technical. His hands are always in position. He's very tight, elbows tucked in. This guy's a very tight boxer. I like it. I like the hands a lot. I think that he'll be more technically sound in the boxing exchanges. But at the same time, Khama Worthy just has some crazy power. So you do not want to be tagged by Khama, because he will drop you and he will have the potential to finish you there. And Khama Worthy's also shown to be more than just a power puncher. We saw him really dig deep in that Pena fight where he ended up pulling off the submission victory there. You know, Khama already 35 years old, Herbert 33. You know, Herbert's going to be the taller fighter by 2 inches. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. I like that. I do like that reach advantage in these boxing exchanges, which I expect the fight to take place there for the majority of the time. I'm going to take Jai Herbert here. I think that Herbert has the potential to stop this fight too. Worthy's been going through some tough fights, getting finished. There's been some damage there, as you could see. You know, to have the audacity to go after the teller, there's got to be a couple things, you know, loose there. There's got to be some screws loose there, and you know, taking those 2 losses, there's a high possibility that Herbert gets a knockout here. At the end of the day, though, I'll take Herbert. I think he'll be more accurate. Maybe Herbert can pump the brakes a little bit and not be so willing to engage in a brawl where he might end up falling short and all the craziness. Because I think if this fight has a little bit of a slower pace, he'll be the more accurate fighter and he'll outpoint Worthy as well. I like Herbert to win this fight here. As far as the line goes, maybe a little bit higher than where you want it. If you could have got Herbert right around that -150 range, maybe there's some more value there. But we'll see how the fight takes place. I like Herbert to win the fight. Another fun matchup here, Loreno Staropoli taking on Jamie Pickett. This does have the makings to be an entertaining fight, so if you guys want to put a little check next to this fight, I expect to see some solid action here. Jamie Pickett, props to him. You know, going into his last fight, he was completely willing to bring the fight and put a show on for the fans. He ended up coming short in that fight against Jordan Wright, but again, was really in there to deliver, and you got to enjoy that. Staropoli is a guy, you know, a very quick-twitched and very, very aggressive striker at times. But this is a guy, Staropoli is a guy that really kind of fell short in his career so far. If you guys remember, man, at the time he was undefeated. He was taking out guys like Thiago Alves, former legends in the game, or I should say former legend. You know, Thiago Alves, a legend in the game. Of course, Alves was past his prime, even though Alves looked amazing in his bare knuckle fight over there at BKFC. But that's a whole different animal. I don't know what's going on with the drug testing and all that, but I don't want to go too much into that. But still, you know, Staropoli at the time gets this victory. He's undefeated, takes out Thiago Alves. People were extremely high on him, including myself. I thought this kid had a lot of potential. I actually had an official play on Staropoli in this fight against Alves, and the line was decent. It was a nice line. It was a close line. You know, since then, man, he's really had a tough time. After that Alves fight, he loses 3 in a row. Fights the very tough Muslim Salikov, Tim Means, and Roman Dolj. The Roman fight, you know, that's a fight that you know you maybe want to see the most out of the 3. I think that Tim Means is a little bit more talented and Muslim too, but Roman is a very talented fighter as well. But that's a fight, you know, you gotta win that fight there. Your back's up against the wall, backs up against the cage, maybe a better analogy. But, you know, if you lose 3 fights, there's a good chance you're getting cut from the UFC. Staropoli did not rise to the occasion in that fight. did not look good. He looked a little bit out of it in that fight to me. And, you know, this is a guy that I still do believe has talent. And he is a talented striker. He's only 28 years old. So, you know, maybe those 3 losses, you know, help groom him to be even a better fighter. Maybe he's coming into this fight extremely hungry, knowing if you lose 4 in a row, you're definitely gone. That may be the case. Jamie Pickett, again, we talked about the right fight. You know, Jamie Pickett was a guy that had multiple opportunities in Dana White's Contender Series. Lost the first 2 times, I believe, and then he ended up winning that last fight. Looked very good in that fight. Carries some good power. He's a rangy dude. He's a big boy. And, you know, when all cylinders are going with him, and he's a dangerous fighter, he does have some potential. I'm not extremely high on him. I don't think that he's the most talented fighter, but like I said, when things are going for him, he is a dangerous fighter. If he catches his groove, he could take over this fight. Now, coming off 2 losses, he lost to Tafon Etchoukwi and Jordan Wright. Before that, took out Jonathan Pati. That was the big fight that got him the contract. And another victory on the regional scene before that. And before that, losing to Panalehi Soriano. So some talented fighters that are taking him out. He's 33 years old here. He's going to have a crazy reach advantage here. We talked about that frame that he has. He's going to have an 8.5-inch reach advantage going into this fight, which is not anything new for him. You know, he has a significant reach over a lot of his opponents. Staropoli is going to have to close the distance here. He's going to have to get on the inside, work the body shots, and he's going to have to be on his P's and Q's, man. The footwork's going to have to be on point. And I do think that Staropoli has that potential. At the end of the day, I think that Staropoli is a little bit more accurate with his striking, a little bit quicker with his hands, and that's why I'm going to take him here. I think this is another fight that I expect to see taking place on the feet. I expect to see these guys throwing down on the feet, and I'm going to edge Staropoli there. I think that Staropoli, you know, a vintage Staropoli takes out as good of a Pickett that I've ever seen. So unless Pickett really evolves here, Pickett coming off a nasty knockout loss as well. I'll take Loreno here. We take a look at the live line here. Loreno is right around a -250 right now, with the comeback on Pickett, almost a 2-to-1 dog there. So it seems people are tending to agree with me on how we see this fight kind of going here. But again, not necessarily sure if there's great value there. You know, depending, but maybe you want to get a little bit of a lower line. I could see Pickett keeping this fight somewhat close, and Pickett's dangerous as well, so be careful there, all right? Tabitha Ricci taking on Maria Oliveira, the UFC newcomer here. Tabitha Ricci with only 1 UFC fight under her belt, and you know, a fight that really didn't go too well for her, but look at the level of competition, taking on Manan Farot, who is a girl that is just steamrolling her way to the top of the division, a nasty striker. You know, that's a very, very tough fight for your first fight in the octagon. So, you know, Richie's going to get a fight here against Maria Oliveira. That's definitely a lot. It's a lot more capable for her, in my opinion. Breaking down tape on Maria, go to YouTube. You can catch a couple of her fights there. Maria Oliveira. You know, if you're breaking down the tape on her, make sure you don't have a large bowl of soup in front of your face or any type of liquid, because if you fall asleep facing forward and you fall your face down in the soup, I mean, you could drown in it. A lot of things can go wrong there. So be careful, because her fights will put you to sleep. At least that's what I thought, man. I don't know. I was watching this fight and it was boring. Not a lot of action coming from her. I mean, she seems to be a fighter that attacks on an even, how would I say that? I don't want to say she's a well-rounded fighter, because I don't even know if she is that well-rounded of a fighter, but her attacks are well-rounded. I mean, she's going to look to strike with you a little bit. She's looking to mix it up. She'll go for a takedown. I mean, she's willing to mix it up. So she feels confident in her overall skills. She's not really trying to keep the fight in one particular department there. I'll give her that, but was not really impressed with anything I saw from her. You know, coming off a knockout victory over Anela Tabusa. We'll take a look at the level of competition that she's fighting here. Her last fighter was making her MMA professional debut. The other fighter before that only had 1 fight, and she lost. Lost to Marina Rodriguez, of course, on Dana White's Contender Series. Marina is the truth. You know, you guys get what I'm getting at. I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but very, very low level competition for her opponents. They're very, very low level. Now, Tabitha Ricci, this is a girl that I like. Coming into the UFC, I knew that she had a tough matchup. I was a little disappointed about that. The Monden fight was going to be a tough fight for her. But you know what? She showed to have a lot of toughness in that fight. Obviously, she was taken out. But, you know, a lot of girls are going to be taken out in that spot there against Fiorot. You know, this is a girl that is a very, very talented grappler. I like what I've seen from her. You know, she's exciting. She's fun to break down tape on. There was one fight where she was like a wizard in there. She took the fight down to the mat almost immediately, wrapped up her opponent in a beautiful submission. I believe she pulled the armbar off in that fight. She has a lot of jiu-jitsu experience. I know she has a lot of experience within the jiu-jitsu game and the tournaments and whatnot. She's a talented grappler from what I've seen. And only 26 years old. As far as her striking goes, definitely needs some development. I do believe that, even though she had a second round finish by way of punches against Shauna Ormsby. I still haven't necessarily been overly excited from what I've seen there, but I think that there's a room for growth and room for improvement. Yeah, she had a lot of these custom rules bouts over in Japan, I believe. Some stuff going on over there, but she has a decent amount of experience. So I mean, I wouldn't necessarily look at her resume and say, oh, you know, she only has 6 professional fights. Like I said, I mean, this is a girl that's going out there and she's competing very, very often in the jiu-jitsu stuff, the custom rules bouts, all those types of things. She's not new to competing. Okay, so don't necessarily look at Maria's resume, see the 16 professional fights, and then look at the 6 professional fights of Tabitha. I don't think that that's necessarily an accurate way to look at it. Tabitha is going to have 2 years of an age experience, or however you want to look at that. I don't know if you look at that as a plus or not. Going from 24 to 26, it's a little iffy. I guess you can consider that a plus, you know, since your prime is more towards 30. But nothing really to look too deep into. Again, Tabitha is going to be the undersized opponent. Nothing new. She tends to be undersized. She's only 5'1". She's going to have a 5-inch height disadvantage. She's going to have a 7-inch reach disadvantage. I think that Tabitha is going to have to close the distance here. Use her striking, be a little bit quick there. Close the distance. Try to get this fight down to the mat. Try to pull off a sub. Try to flash with your jiu-jitsu. Just control Maria down there. And work some ground and pound down there as well. If you don't get the sub, work some ground and pound. And, you know, I like Tabitha here. I'm not necessarily crazy about the line. You know, these types of fights, there's a lot of X factors. Both of these girls are somewhat green. I'm not necessarily crazy about taking a girl in Tabitha at minus 245 in a spot like this, even though I think that she is the more talented fighter and I do expect her to win. I think you want to get a better line than 245 at least, you know. But we'll see how the fight plays out overall. But I'll be pulling for Tabitha, and I think she gets it done. We got the Welsh fighter Mason Jones taking on David Onama, who steps in on short notice. Unfortunately, Alan Patrick, right? Alan Patrick was not able to make the fight, right? So after the first time they fought, where you had the accidental eye poke in the second round, unfortunately, the second time around the fight's not going to go through either. But in steps David Onama. This guy's 8-0. Fighting out of Uganda by way of Glory MMA Fitness. So that's a good thing. Man, this guy's getting polished up by one of the best of them, fighting out of Missouri these days. You know, this is a guy, he's 7-0 here, it says now. I don't know, it said 8-0, now 7-0. But this is a guy that's been finishing a lot of his opponents, going in there, finishing these guys. None of his opponents necessarily stick out to me. If you go on YouTube, you can pull up a decent amount of this guy's fights. You could see what he's about. To me, this is a fighter that is he's I wouldn't want to say a diamond, but how would I say, some type of stone, some type of gem that is a little rough around the edges and needs to be polished up more so. And it's great that he's getting in that work with James Krause and all those boys, but it's not necessarily just that. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. And you know, he's getting the call up to the big show pretty early in his career. And, I mean, he has some fights under his belt. We've seen people come in, of course, with 7 professional fights. It's not necessarily unheard of these days. But if you break down the tape on him, you see some promising skills. You see some quickness in his hands. You see some athleticism. But the technique is definitely not all there, especially with his hands. I mean, yeah, he's landing some of those shots against these guys, but some of his straight punches are almost kind of looping the way he comes in. I'm not necessarily crazy about his technique with the strikes. I wasn't overly impressed there. Where then you have a guy in Mason Jones, who I've actually been quite impressed from him. I know we haven't seen too much from him, but I've been decently impressed from what I've seen from this guy, even before getting signed to the UFC. Now, he does lose his fight to Mike Davis. That was a good fight, and he went through some adversity in that fight, and he showed to be a very tough fighter. He took some big shots from Davis in that fight, and he landed some big shots in that fight, if you guys remember. I think it was a closer fight than maybe some of you remember or whatnot. It was a decent fight, and I was impressed with Mason, especially early in the fight. He's very well-rounded. He's diverse on the feet. This guy mixes in the kicks with his punches. He's technical. You gotta love... excuse me, 1 second here. Yeah, you gotta love the fact. Now, it doesn't say here. It says that he's still training out of Pedro Bessa BJJ, but you guys know they don't always update this stuff. You gotta love the fact that he's training over at Uriah Faber's Ultimate Fitness, putting in work with Team Alpha Male. I think that's always a great thing for especially these types of fighters that are coming from the European scene. Putting that work with Team Alpha Male, you know the grappling and the wrestling is going to elevate just about as much as it could, as much as it possibly could. I'm a giant fan of everything that Uriah Faber is about, and a lot of these guys. I mean, to be able to brush shoulders with guys like Clay Guida, Chad Mendez, Faber, Touchy-Feely, Andre Feely, and the list goes on and on and on. I mean, you can add the new Santa Claus fighter that just got signed too, man. That guy's going to be making a name for himself. But seriously, this guy Mason Jones is a talented fighter. I think that we're just getting to know him. He's only 26 years old, and I think that we're going to be seeing him quite often. We're going to be seeing a lot of him. I think that he'll have a decent UFC career here. But first things first, he has to go in there, take out this guy David Onama. David Onama coming in this fight as a plus 450 dog, has the stack deck. How you say that? You got the deck stacked against him. I was going to say the stack decked against him. We're recording this late over here, man. It's midnight now on Tuesday. We just saw Dana White's Contender Series. It was a good one. It was a good one. That main event, a little bit controversial with the decision there. But again, it's late over here. But you guys know how it is, man. I've been spending a lot more time breaking down these fights than preparing just to put this video out to you guys. I feel like that's what it's really about. And you guys know I'm hungry as ever to have a profitable night. I don't like to lose on these fight cards, and we are coming off a losing fight card. Even though we've been killing it for the most part, we're going to come back and we're going to kill this one. David Onama coming in at a plus 450. Maybe he keeps this fight somewhat close. You see some possible value there. I'm not necessarily crazy, but the minus 700, that's a high line. At the end of the day, though, Mason Jones has a lot of things going in his favor and seems to be the more technical fighter. I think that he's just way more technically sound anywhere this fight goes. On the feet, I could see him mixing in some wrestling and some takedowns, working some ground and pound. This is Mason Jones's fight. He's going to go in here and he should handle business. That's how I feel about it. So, Mason Jones to handle things there. This is a great fight here in the middleweight division. Two guys that are really promising fighters, Jun Young Park and Gregory Rodriguez. I would say the middleweight division is definitely one of the more shallow divisions. I think a lot of you guys would agree with me there. So this is a fight where it would be nice to see one of these fighters emerge as a contender down the line. Both of them show really good talent. Jun Young Park is coming off a big-time win over Tafon Nchukwi, who is a very dangerous fighter, who's also coming off a big win, rebounding off that fight. And, Park showed in that fight, he showed to be a very well-rounded fighter. This is a guy that really has solid wrestling. He has a beautiful jab. He's extremely technical with his boxing. Has a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful jab and a nice straight. His punches are nice and straight. His 1-2 is very, very crisp. But again, seeing him mix in those takedowns as well. If you don't have average takedown defense, this guy is going to rip you down to the mat, and he's going to steal rounds on you. He's going to grind you out. This is a very cerebral fighter in Park. This guy's making great mental reads in his fights, and he's doing what he needs to do to get his arm raised. Now, Gregory Rodriguez, RoboCop. This is a guy that I'm high on as well. I think this guy has a lot of talent. And I could see him being a force to be reckoned with in the division as well. Now, you take a look at his one loss as of recently. He lost in the Contender Series, if you guys remember. That was a fight that I truly believe that he made a mistake in there. He got a little bit overly aggressive. And this is not the fight here. This is actually his UFC debut. But in fighting in Jordan Wright, you know, the diabetic fighter, Jordan Wright was undersized in that fight. And hope I'm saying his name right, Jordan Wright, because now I'm thinking of the karate guy. Jordan Williams, excuse me. Caught myself there. But Jordan Williams, you know, the diabetic fighter, cool dude. He has some good hands. That was a fight where Gregory, in my opinion, got overzealous in there. He got overly aggressive. Was going in for the kill. He was looking to make a statement. We see how the show is. Everybody wants to see you go in there and knock the other opponent out. If you want to get that contract, you need that finish. You could tell that Gregory was feeling that atmosphere. He went in there like a bat out of hell, and he landed some big shots early too, but he ended up getting clipped. Got put on Queer Street. He was wobbly. He ended up getting finished there. That's a fight I think if they fight 100 times, I think that Rodriguez probably wins that fight 90-something times. I really believe that, at least in the upper 80s. I think that he's the better fighter there. It wasn't his day that day. And after that fight, you got to love the way that he went back to the drawing board, strung off 2 victories in a row over Al Matavo and Josh Fremd, and then ended up getting another opportunity with the UFC where he took out Dusko Todorovic, and he really hurt Todorovic in that fight, did his thing in that fight, looked excellent. And Gregory's he's a technical fighter. He has good power. You know, seems to have a decent ground game from what you could see from him. He's a well-rounded fighter. 6'3", beautiful frame for the division. I believe he has some experience in the light heavyweight division as well. 76-inch reach here. I mean, this guy's a legit middleweight fighter here. Gotta love the size he's bringing in here against Park. Park, an excellent striker as well. You know, Gregory is gonna have to continue to show that growth with his striking defense. Don't get crazy in there, because Park will start to land some big shots on you as well. Park is a sniper. He's another fighter that I would refer to as a sniper with his hands. And as far as the wrestling goes, I don't see Park really having that avenue to exploit Rodriguez by taking him down. I think that Rodriguez is solid there. I think that he's capable. I think he has good jiu-jitsu, good takedown defense. He's a big boy. He's not going to be easy to get down to the mat. So going into this fight now, this is a great fight to talk about and have a pick here. The line is basically even. We take a look at the live line right now, and it's basically dead even. Maybe a slight lean on some books on Park. I like Gregory Rodriguez here. I like Rodriguez. I think that he has a little bit more pure power in his hands. He's the bigger guy here, a little bit more explosive. And, you know, Park's going to look to use that jab and try to maybe mix in a takedown or two. I don't think he'll have success there. And I think Rodriguez just handles business here. I think that he lands the more powerful shots. I like Gregory Rodriguez to win this fight. And either way, the winner of this fight is definitely going to be pushing their way towards the top of the division down the line. And maybe they both will even, you know, even the loser will rebound. These are two talented fighters. I like Gregory Rodriguez to win this one. We got Nick Negamariano taking on Ike Villanueva. This fight made the main card here. A couple other fights I thought could have been on the main card over this fight, but nevertheless, these guys do put on entertaining fights, so the UFC is going to reward them here with the big spot. Ike Villanueva, a guy that's made a living here just on being an exciting fighter, or just being willing to engage in exciting fights. Not necessarily the most skilled of fighters. I mean, this guy has losses against Chase Sherman, Jordan Wright. You know, I'm okay with Jordan Wright, but lost to Marcin Prachnio in his last fight. You guys know Marcin, not too high on him here, man. He's 18-12 as a professional. Villanueva had a big knockout victory over Vinicius Mojera, the jiu-jitsu specialist that is not up to par with his striking, and Villanueva was able to capitalize there. Now, that's not going to be the case here. This guy, Nick is a talented fighter. You know, he was a guy that he had some type of back surgery a little bit ago, came back to the fight game after the surgery and gets matched up with Alexa Kamer, a guy that I think is a solid fighter. He's been really having a tough road as of recently, but I do think that Kamer is a tough dude, a talented fighter. I think that he will come back down the line, but you know, a guy that puts a lot of work in with Stipe. And, you know, Nick handled business in that fight. It was a split decision victory. It was a close one, but Nick handled business regardless. He made it a good fight, made it a close fight. He showed to be well-rounded. He could strike. He actually had a takedown against Khamzat in that fight as well. And, you know, it's not necessarily too easy to do. Not that Khamzat has the best takedown defense, but still, you know, that says something. He was the guy that was basically on top in those type of exchanges against the cage, trying to get the opponent down to the ground. You know, he got him kind of down there a little bit, landed some shots, and, you know, he's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage going into this fight. I do like that. I like that reach advantage, as this fight will spend a lot of time in the middle. Excuse me over here, guys. There will be a lot of time spent in this fight, as long as it lasts, of these guys exchanging bows in the feet. I really expect these guys to throw hands in the middle. Now, it'll be up to Nick if Nick tries to mix in a couple takedowns too, and tries to press Ike against the cage, maybe work him out a little bit, try to grind him out. Maybe we get Ike breathing a little bit heavy there, and then you land some big shots in him there. I think Nick will be the more well-rounded fighter. I think Nick has a couple things going from here. He looks to be in phenomenal shape going into this fight. This is a fighter that really begun his career fighting lower-level talent. I mean, there's not a lot of big names, and definitely the resumes are not really there as he made his professional debut and working his way through the ranks. Lost his UFC debut to Sapirberg Safarov, an experienced fighter, not necessarily a guy that's the most talented fighter. But again, the Khamzat fight, came back off the surgery and everything. It was a big win for him. I think Khamzat is a way more well-rounded fighter than Ike Villanueva, a better fighter than him. So I don't see any reason why Nick can't go in here and implement that same game plan and handle business. Now, you guys know it's the fight game. If Ike's going to come out here and take this fight, Ike's going to have to really stuff the takedowns, keep this fight on the feet, and let his hands go. And he's going to have to hit Nick with some power shots. He's going to have to let those hands go. Ike, you know, he loves his boxing. He favors his hands. Let's see what his hands are about. Can he land some big shots on Nick? Overall, I don't see the fight going that route. I think that Nick Negumereanu will be the guy, the fighter that is just a little bit more polished, a little bit more well-rounded. And that's why I'll take Nick to win this fight. And again, he's coming in as high as a -270 favorite on some books, but on average, right around that 235, 240 range. So people definitely see him as the more well-rounded fighter here, with more paths to victory. Where Ike Villanueva, I don't know which one of you guys are banking on Ike Villanueva to land that big shot or to really style with his boxing. Catching him at a +180. I don't know about that, you know. Sure, there's a couple of you guys out there, but I wouldn't necessarily be that guy. But we'll see if Villanueva could rise to the occasion. And overall, it should be a fun fight. We should see some action there, and another fun fight on the card. Now, speaking of fun fights, we got another fun fight here. Dwight Grant taking on Francisco Trinaldo. Has the makings to be action-packed. Trinaldo, the only way he's not engaged in an exciting fight is if his opponent is running away for 15 minutes, like in the Alexander Hernandez fight, which is crazy because nowadays Hernandez turned completely back into beast mode. Got to give him props there. Seems he was just shook on the night. Didn't want nothing to do with that Brazilian redwood tree, Masuranduba. Dwight Grant, you know, you want to talk about guys that are willing to engage and willing to go at it. Dwight Grant is that guy. Dwight Grant was engaged in a very wild fight against Daniel Rodriguez. If you guys remember that fight, Dwight Grant almost finished the fight early on in that fight and then ended up being finished himself. But that was a fun one while it lasted. Dwight Grant has a funky, unorthodox type of style. He's very light on his feet. He's looking for those counter shots. Kind of waves back and forth as he's in there. Very, very diverse with his strikes. Works the legs, works the boxing, has these weird hooks, likes to throw a lot of step-in hooks. And he does give guys trouble at times. Fighting out of AKA, Solid Fight Camp. I don't know if he's still over there right now. I know he was over there back in the day. Spent a lot of time over there. The Body Snatcher. You know, he's going to be coming into this fight with a 6.5 reach advantage. As far as that goes, he's going to be the 3-inch taller opponent too. So he's a lot more rangy in there, and he fights rangy as well. So I mean, he definitely has that going for him there. So not only does he have that advantage, but the way he strikes, I mean, he really knows how to use his range at times with his kicks. And I mean, he's not a bad fighter, man. Coming off a split decision victory over Stefan Skulic. That was a split decision fight there. Before that, again, the Rodriguez fight we talked about. Took Alan Jouban out by way of a split decision. Took out Carlo Pedersoli out. That was a big knockout victory for him there. That was probably the best fight that he's ever had in the octagon. Split decision loss to Zach Otto. He's had quite a few split decisions. And, you know, Trinaldo's another guy that's had quite a few split decisions. I do expect this fight to be close, unless one of these guys are finished. This should be a close fight. Dwight Grant's already 37 years old now, which is pretty crazy. Trinaldo, we know he's 43. We've seen him grow in front of us. We've seen him age to 43 right in front of our eyes. I mean, this guy is just continuously fighting in the octagon throughout the years. And Trinaldo is a guy that I really have a lot of respect for. Funny, he's over here in Deerfield Beach again. I've talked about it before, but, you know, the beach I grew up as a little kid right over here. It's funny seeing these guys around my old stomping grounds there. And Trinaldo, man, still doing his thing, still putting the work in, still grinding it out over at American Top Team, which is always a great thing. You guys know I'm a very high in American Top Team. Looks to be in great shape. Trinaldo carries good power in his hands. If he clips you, he can put you out. He can put anybody out. Definitely has some good power in his hands. A solid grappler. An extremely well-rounded fighter, man, is Trinaldo. An extremely well-rounded fighter. And as of recently, I can't say that he's really taken too much of a step back. I mean, of course, you have to assume, obviously, that he has. He's 43. But as far as his performances go, I mean, it's pretty much the same old Trinaldo. He's in there. He's that tricky southpaw. And, you know, he'll land some big shots on you. He's hard to hit. He's willing to engage in a brawl. He's a tough overall customer, man. And you got to give this guy props, man. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the best shape of his career. Maybe I take that back, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting in some of the best training that he's ever got in his career with everything that he's learned throughout the years, maybe dieting and this and that over at the American Top Team. I mean, he's getting world-class type of training over there. And I wouldn't be surprised if that really has escalated and a lot of those things are clicking on all cylinders. I wouldn't be surprised there. Over there with Gleison Tibau, another guy, has been around the way for a long time, who just stole a victory over Rory, right? Not too long ago. They gave him the victory there. I think he lost, right, to Rory. A little bit of a steal. You know, this guy's battled it out with Paul Felder. How about the Irish Dragon, man? Props to the Irish Dragon. Was just listening to him doing these Dana White Contender Series fights. He's a good commentator. All right, back to the fight, though. This is a fight that I've been back and forth on. You know, I really like that range and that reach that Grant's going to have, the leg reach, the arm reach. If Grant's able to implement that attack from the outside, if he's patient, I think that he could definitely win this fight. But I have a feeling that this fight will start to stir up, and I think that there'll be some big-time action going on. And I think Trinaldo thrives in that action. We talked about how he took out Herbert, you know, earlier when we were talking about the Herbert fight. That wasn't too long ago. I'm going to say Trinaldo gets it done. I'm going to say that he's just a little bit more crafty in there. He might land a big shot. You know, he's tough in the clinch. He's a tough wrestler. He's a strong guy. And they don't call him the Brazilian redwood tree for nothing. And, yeah, I'm going to ride with him, man. I'm going to ride with him there. It's a close fight. It could definitely go either way. It's a close fight there. But at the end of the day, I'm going to take Trinaldo. I have it so close, man, and out of respect, I think I'm going to side with Massaranduba. Now that would bring us to the featherweight division. Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy taking on Sang Woo Choi. Who's really been putting it together. Talked about it earlier. He's on a 3-fight win streak. Took out Sumant Mokhtarian. Took out Yusuf Zalal to go fight there. And took out Julian Erosa, who that's shown to be a good victory now, man. Erosa's no joke. The guy does not get credit. Does not get as much credit as he deserves, in my opinion. And that even goes for me. Maybe I got to respect him a little bit more at times. I backed him at times. I've made money with him. I've tried to fade him, and I've came up short too, man. So Now you talk about win streaks. How about Bruce Leroy? Bruce Leroy in a 4-fight win streak, taking out Steven Peterson, Chase Hooper, Austin Springer, and Kevin Kroom. So not necessarily the most talented fighters, but Bruce Leroy's going in there. He's 33 years old. He's definitely the best version we've ever seen from him. And, you know, I've had the pleasure of chatting it up with him on MMA Live Discussion. You know, we talked about some of his street fights back in the day. And it's funny because I remember watching him on YouTube. You know, comment below if you guys also know what I'm talking about. I mean, I remember watching him way back in the day on YouTube. I used to love watching the street fights, the Kimbo fights. And, you know, I remember him from way back then. And then, you know, we talked all about that. It was pretty cool to be able to have that conversation. But without a doubt, Caceres is the best fighter that he's ever been. He's at his prime right now. I mean, he's really, really doing his thing right now. The striking has really came along. You know, he did have that one loss, yeah, against Kron Gracie where he was submitted. But, you know, he had the wrong game plan in that fight. He had to avoid the ground game, and unfortunately he wasn't able to. Now, Sung-Woo Choi, the Sting, I really, really liked what I've seen from him in these last 3 fights. Losses to Gavin Tucker and Movsar Evlovoev before that. Now, both those guys very talented, but you guys know how high I am on Movsar, so don't really look into that too much. The Gavin fight, you know, he learned from that mistake, but that was a fight that I think nowadays he takes that fight. Sang-Woo Choi, very rangy for the division, 6 foot with a 74.5-inch reach advantage, but only an inch reach advantage over Caceres. I see this fight taking place in the feet for the most part, but this could be a fight that kind of goes down to the mat, and you know, we could see a lot of different things going on here. I just overall, man, I really, really like what I've seen from Choi as of recently. Look great. And who was this? Was against who was this again? Was that Erosa? Yeah, that was Erosa. And he looked, yeah, that was Erosa. He looked very good in that fight against Erosa. Without a doubt, the best version that we've seen from him, best version we've seen of him. And you know, at the age of what, 28 years old, he should only look better and better. And you know, these are 2 guys that are really, they're really steaming towards each other, man. You're talking about 2 trains with a full head of steam going straight at each other. Both of these guys are just refuse to lose any of their fights as of recently. They've really dominated their opponents, and I'm very interested to see which guy is going to really implement their will here. I'm a little surprised at the line, a little bit. You know, you get Bruce Leroy at a plus 220, so some people really aren't respecting the work that he's been doing as of recently, maybe for the level of opponents that he's been facing, and based on the fact that Choi has looked really, really good, and he's a big boy for the division, and he knows how to use it. I'm going to roll with Sang-Woo Choi here. Again, maybe the line's a little bit off, but at the end of the day, Choi's been looking very, very good. I could see Choi being the better striker here, a little bit more crisp with his shots. If this fight goes down to the mat, I wouldn't be surprised if Choi does his thing down there as well. He's looking good, man. This guy's really, really, really completing his arsenal, and he's a solid fighter, and I'm going to take him to win here. But again, you know, you take a look at the live line right now. Choi, even up to a minus 300 on some lines. So people are really high in the work that he's been doing as of recently, as I am as well. But again, maybe a little high, but I like Choi to win that fight. Jessica Rose Clark taking on Jocelyn Edwards. If you guys are not that familiar with Jocelyn Edwards, let me tell you, you know, breaking down tape on her again, rewatching some of her fights, she is not a bad fighter at all. Decently well-rounded fighter that has some crisp strikes, some solid boxing. I like her attacks from bottom. I mean, she's a well-rounded fighter, man. She's a solid athlete. Comes in this fight with a 3-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage. She's a rangy opponent, the Panamanian fighter, taking on the Australian Jessica Rose Clark, a fighter that has now been around the way for a while. It's crazy. I remember her making her UFC debut, which seems just like yesterday. And now this is a girl that's been around the block for a while. Not always the most active fighter. You know, sometimes a little bit, you know, fought, what, 5 times in the last 4 years. That's definitely not active. I think that she did have a surgery on her knee, I believe, a while back. I remember cashing in on her against Paige Van Zandt. How about that? I'll give you guys a little throwback fight. That was almost 4 years ago. And fought within 2 months at the time after taking out Beck Rawlings. Beck Rawlings, bare knuckle fighter these days, kind of a creep of a woman, but loses to Jessica Ai, where she was kind of a little bit outsized in that fight, but not a good one for her there. And then she lost to Pannie Kianzad. Pannie was able to style on her a little bit. Jessica is a tough cookie. She doesn't necessarily have the sharpest and best striking that you'll see in the division, but she's a girl that can land a couple solid 1-2s on you, could push you up against the cage, hang on you against the cage, and kind of wear on you. Nowadays with the way that the judging system is, it doesn't necessarily fit her style. She's kind of had to try to evolve a little bit with her style. Coming off a solid victory against Sarah Alpar. Now that fight, in my opinion, was tailor-made for her, because Sarah Alpar is a girl that really, Sarah's a girl that tries to have her opponents kind of wear down. She tries to wear them down, tries to hang on them, tries to get the fight down to the mat, out cardio them. If they're a little bit weak with their takedown defense and whatnot, she'll look to get them down to the mat and work them there. We saw her do that on Dana White's Contender Series. Well, Jessica Rose Clark is not that type of fighter. Jessica Rose Clark is a very well-rounded fighter, a solid grappler. So, Jessica Rose was able to dictate where that fight was being fought and keep it at her strength, which was in the striking department there. And she ended up, getting that stoppage against Alpar, which that was already a year ago. And if you guys remember, that was a nasty, nasty stoppage. She hit her with the knee, really, really messed Alpar up there. Now, speaking to Sarah Alpar, Jocelyn Edwards has a loss via split decision over an LFA in that fight. Speaking of trying to exploit fighters who have bad takedown defense and whatnot. At the time, Jocelyn, not that I'm saying that she's gotten that much better there, but, Jocelyn has a little bit of weak takedown defense at times, seems. And Alpar was able to get some takedowns in that fight and she was able to pull off a split there. Since that fight, though, she takes out Pamela Gonzalez and then takes out Yanin Wu in her UFC debut. You like that? UFC Wu. Yanin Wu, UFC Wu. She wins her UFC debut there. Looked good in that fight. She really did. She looked good in that fight. Talked about the accuracy of her punches and the head movement and whatnot. She has good boxing. And then she loses to Carol Rosa. Carol Rosa is a very, very solid fighter. I think we all know about Carol these days. So, that's a fight that you really can't be too harsh on her about. Carol Rosa, in my opinion, is a better fighter than Jessica Rose Clark. They're very similar. They're similar in some aspects, but Rosa is the more talented fighter, in my opinion, there. So you got that common opponent in Alpar. I'm going to say that Jocelyn Edwards will have the better boxing here. She'll be a little bit more athletic. She'll be a little bit quicker, and she'll have the edge as far as that goes. But Rose Clark is no slouch there as well. She has some good power in her hands. We saw in her last fight that her striking is definitely evolving as well. And she's been coming in phenomenal shape. She's coming off a big victory. I think that Rose Clark has the X factor with the clinch game and the grappling. And overall, I'm going to take Rose Clark here. After coming off that big victory against Alpar, the way that she looked there. I know it was a year ago, but I'm hoping that she takes that momentum into this fight. I think she's a little bit more of the well-rounded fighter here. I'll take Jessica Rose Clark to win the fight. She's right around a -145, -150. So people are definitely understanding that Jocelyn is a talented fighter. When you break the tape down on her, she's an athletic fighter that's picking up a lot of skills by the day, and she's a dangerous opponent. And the X factor here too is Jocelyn's only 26 years old. You're going to see major strides from her in her game. Well, Jessica Rose Clark's trying to also make those strides as of recently, but she's 33 years old, creeping up on 34. You got to wonder how that's going to go down the road, how her career is going to be going over the next couple of years. But I'll take Jessie Jess here one more time, possibly, depending on who she's matched up with next. I think she could pull this fight off. It's a good one. It's a close one. And I don't know, maybe is there more value on Edwards at this line compared to Clark? It's a very close fight. I like Clark, though. I like Clark to win that fight straight up. We made it to the co-main event of the card. We got Grant Dawson taking on Ricky Glenn. I didn't get to inconvenience you guys earlier by saying hit that like button, hit that like button. I'm going to get to it real quick right now. If you guys don't mind, man, please hit that like button for me. If we hit 550 likes I'm giving out free plays in the comment section. All right. If we hit 550 likes, okay, and I'm gonna start to do that. I know it's kind of a reach, but you know what? I mean, I'm getting up to 3,000 views on average, or sometimes 2,000, 3,000 views. So, you know, if you guys just hit that like button, I'll start throwing some plays your guys' way. But other than that, man, I hope you guys appreciate the time I put into this. If you guys can hit the like button, helps me get my views up and whatnot. So I appreciate all you guys, man. As always, thank you guys. Hit that subscribe button too. Now back to the fight. Grant Dawson. You guys know I've been very, very high on Grant for a while now, and I've been cashing in on him for a while. Ever since his Dana White's Contender Series fight, man, we saw this kid push a pace like we very, very rarely see. His wrestling is relentless. He has his own little style, a little bit reminiscent to Ben Askren in his prime. That funky style can try to get you down to the mat and in all types of weird angles and weird positions. But now, how about the X factor? His striking has came around with James. He's been working on the striking game. The guy shows that he has the heart of a lion. How about his last fight? Ends up getting the knockout at the very, very last second of the fight. I think it literally may have been. Let's double check that real quick. Wasn't it the last second of the fight? It was. 4 minutes and 59 seconds. He gets the knockout. I had him kind of losing that fight. Now, I remember they pulled up the judges' scorecards. I think that he actually might have still been in that fight. I think he might have still won somehow. It was close. I have to pull it up. But at the end of the day, he put the stamp on that fight. I think he should have been losing that fight. So the fact that he went in for the kill like that and got the kill, and I mean a real kill, I mean he put Leonardo out. And I'm very high on Leonardo Santos. You guys know that. Santos is a dangerous, dangerous jiu-jitsu player that's been working on his striking. He's a nasty striker too in his own way. That was a big, big win. But now let's understand that that he was losing this fight now. You know, so the thing was, yeah, he got that knockout, but he wasn't looking as good as he normally looks, was Grant. You know, normally Grant's pretty much taking care of business from the very beginning of the fight. In that fight, he did show to have some holes in his game, or showed that he needs to be refined a little bit still, even though we've been very high on him. You know, you start throwing him in there with the top-level talent in the division. Grant, he might start running into some problems here. But it looks like the UFC is going to continuously groom this guy. They're matching him up with Rick Glenn. Rick Glenn is a guy that's a very talented fighter, man. You know, a guy that's been around the block for a long, long time, the Gladiator. But by no means is Rick Glenn, you know, some type of phenomenal big-time fighter. It's just not the case. I mean, he has a loss to Kevin Aguilar, Miles Jury as of recently, Evan Dunham. You know, I'll talk about this real quick. What he did to Gavin Tucker was one of the worst beatings that I've ever seen in my life. You know, Rick Glenn, that was a fight that he kind of put Tucker on Queer Street early and just didn't put him out completely. So then he was able just to do whatever he wanted to do with him for about 15 minutes, and it was pretty brutal to watch. But Rick Glenn is a very well-rounded fighter. He can strike, he can wrestle. He's just the epitome of a well-rounded fighter. He really is, and comes in phenomenal shape. And it's a good fight for Dawson. It's a good fight for Dawson to get some more experience under his belt. Dawson right now is still 27 years old, so no need to rush him to the top so quickly. But Dawson, don't get it twisted, man. Dawson is a guy that pushes the pace like very, very few. His striking is coming around. He kind of reminds me a little bit of a TJ Dillashaw type of fighter, a guy that had that wrestling background, but you see him starting to become a nasty striker and a guy that could put you away. Throws a beautiful head kick, mixes in the head kick kind of how TJ does. You know, he sets it up with his hands. You don't really see it coming. Throws it over the top. He reminds me very much of TJ Dillashaw in some aspects. And you guys know TJ is a legend. So Grant Dawson now 17-1. You guys know I'm going to go with Grant Dawson to win this fight. Take a look at the line. It's crept up to the -400 range on average, right around that -350 to 365 range. It's going to have to be a parlay leg if you're trying to do something with it. But if you're a little bit worried about how Grant looked in the majority of that last fight before getting the knockout, and you're worried that Rick comes in phenomenal shape and tests him and makes it a close fight, you might want to stay away from it. Depending on how you feel about that, it would be great to grab Grant at a better line than what you're seeing here, but maybe that -335 range if you got a Bet Rivers account, I don't know how many of you guys have a Bet Rivers sportsbook account. And if you do, you do. But grab that line there. And speaking of sportsbooks, man, real quick, as I let you guys know, Grant Dawson is the pick. If you guys are looking to sign up with the new sportsbook, if you guys are not familiar with Bovada.lv, hit me up, shoot me an email. I got my email below. Shoot me a DM on Instagram so I can get you my referral link, and I will give you some free picks, and I will help you learn how the website works and whatnot. If you're new to sports betting, it's Bovada.lv, Bovada.lv, and I would love to help you out with that. It also helps me out. It's a win-win situation, man, so keep that in mind as well. Reach out to me, man. We got the main event, Paulo Costa taking on Marvin Vettori. We got a big one here. This is a good fight, man. We talked about it earlier. Two guys that are coming off some sore spots. How are they going to rebound? Before we get into this fight, for those of you guys that are wondering, I get a lot of messages. What plays are you eyeing? What's the best plays of the fight card? If you guys are interested in my exclusive bets for this fight card, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll give you my pricing for my exclusive bets. Been absolutely killing it over the last 3 to 4 months. Reach out to me. My email's below. My Instagram's below. Shoot me a message. I'll give you the pricing. And I'm always willing to work with you guys. And you won't regret it. I will make you guys some money here. All right. So we got Paulo Costa taking on Marvin. A very interesting fight, man. Two former contenders for the title as of just recently. Both lost to the Stylebender. And before that, they were really putting together a great piece of work, man, with their careers. They were really putting together something. And, you had Costa going in there, knocking these guys out, taking out Bambus, Johnny Hendricks, Uriah Hall, and had the wild fight with Yoel Romero. He had a wild fight with Romero. The Hall fight, he broke him down. He pressured him. It was a completely different fighter than what we saw against Stylebender. I mean, it was alarming how bad he looked against Israel, because we knew what the game plan was, man. You got to pressure Izzy. Keep your guard up. Don't step into a counter shot, but you got to pressure him. You got to get on the inside. You got to crack the body. You got to try to land that big shot on him. You don't want to sit at bay, sit in the middle at distance as he styles on you. Hence the name, the Stylebender. Which I think that really, it comes from some type of like cartoon or whatnot. Maybe you guys can correct me. Some type of Dragon Ball Z thing. But it also has the word style in it, and he styles on a lot of people, man. The Stylebender is amazing with the striking. And in that fight, Costa froze up. He let his leg be completely chewed up in that fight before he even started to get destroyed in other aspects, getting, tagged up to the head and whatnot, getting kicked in the face. But he gave his leg up right away. And it was alarming how much he froze up in that fight, man. Because Costa is absolutely no joke. The guy he's a beast of a man, carries some nasty power. When he's pressuring his opponents and he's looking to take them out, man, he's as dangerous as it gets. But that's why this fight is just, it's so interesting. How is he going to look, coming back after that embarrassing loss? And now he's taking on a guy in Marvin Vettori. Marvin is a guy that I was so high on. I really was so high on him, but his performance against Izzy was bad. It was just really bad, man. He was reaching for his takedowns. He wasn't setting them up properly. The way that he almost acted like he was winning the fight, like raising his hands as he was just getting destroyed, seemed like he gassed out a little bit, from all those takedown attempts that were failed. It wore on him. So many things went wrong in that fight, and it just kind of made me look at both of these fighters in a different light. From seeing these guys being so dominant to just looking vulnerable in there. And I get it. I know that Izzy's the real deal, but at the end of the day, these guys definitely showed holes in their games. Now, when these guys face off, how is it going to go between these two men? All right, on the feet, Marvin, working with King's MMA for a long time, southpaw fighter, high volume amount of strikes. You got Costa, in my opinion, he carries more power, a little bit more technical with his boxing. When he's throwing his shots, man, he's crisp, man. The hooks, everything's very technical, is powerful. I'm going to edge Costa on the feet. If we see a prime Costa, I'm going to edge him there, man. If you remember him landing big shots on Hall, Hendricks, Romero, I mean, if we see that type of a version of Costa, I think he could land some big shots on Marvin and hurt him. Now, does Marvin have an overall edge with the ground game, you know, and the overall MMA game if he works in some strikes and is able to get the fight down to the mat a little bit? Maybe, possibly. I still am very high on Marvin's work ethic. I know that he's one of I know he's a fighter that puts in about as much work as anybody. I think that Marvin's definitely motivated like hell after the way that he lost that fight. But you know what, man? You know what? And I know Marvin's the favorite, you know, going into this fight. We'll talk about the line real quick. Marvin's a minus 150 to 160 favorite. I think that if we get the old Paulo Costa back, if he put his head back on his shoulders and he you know, righted the ship, and however you want to say that, I think that Costa has some things that he's going to bring to the table here where he could thrive. I think he'll get the better of Marvin on the feet. If his cardio holds up, you know, that is a little bit of an X factor. I know that Marvin can push the pace there for a while. And how are those takedown attempts from Marvin going to go? Can Marvin try to get the fight down to the ground and kind of use his powerful jiu-jitsu? Not really a finesse jiu-jitsu game, but, you know, a game where Marvin tries to get you down, you know, wearing you on top, land some shots, maybe try to take your back. You know, is Costa ready to stuff those takedowns to keep this fight on the feet? You know, Costa has shown to have good takedown defense over the years. You know, I've been decently impressed with him. Look at the size on Costa here. Did he Photoshop that or what? He's bigger than Nogueira. I don't know. I think he might have had to hit this with Photoshop. And he seems like the type of guy that would do that too. Seems to be very fixated on his looks and whatnot. But at the end of the day, man, when Costa is on, he's a dangerous fighter, man. I'm taking Costa to win the fight. I'm taking the dog in the main event. And I think he gets it done, man. I think that he keeps this fight on the feet for the majority of the fight. And I think that he's the sharper striker. I think he might even land some big shots. Marvin is there to be hit himself. And Marvin has a little bit of a little bit more. His striking is a little bit slower, okay? His strikes are not coming in at the same rate as a Costa. Costa's, man, his strikes are explosive. They're quick, and I think he'll be quicker to the punch. Now, how it will play out for 25 minutes, that will have to be seen. But I'll roll with the dog here in the main event. It's going to be a fun fight. It is. You know, after what both these guys went through, excited to see how this fight plays out. And let's see, man. Let's see. I'm going to just wing this one, man, all right? Don't hate on me now because, you know, I'm going to cap off this episode with a little, you know, a little post-show comment, a little post-show statement. This one, just because I heard somebody talking about this earlier, there's a lot of stray cats, man, around the streets and whatnot. I guess it depends where you live. But we got some stray cats out by me, and it's a big deal if you neuter your cats. So go neuter your cats because there's a bunch of unwanted cats everywhere in America, and there's all types of things going on with that, man. They got diseases. They're all messed up. They're bothering people. So if you have a cat that you let sit outside, go get them neutered. Go get that cat neutered. And this way there's not some more wild kittens around the streets. All right, guys, I'll have a better one for you next time. You guys enjoy these fights. And you guys can catch me on Instagram at MMA_fortuneteller_. You can keep up with me with what I'm betting on the fight night. I'll have all my bets posted there. We'll be talking about what I'm attacking on this fight card. And again, if you want to work with me, don't be shy to reach out to me. All right, guys. On that note, let me try to savor what's left of my voice here. And on that note, signing out, Teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.